Hi, here we are. It's another Monday on LinkedIn Live here. Sorry for being a bit late. I probably, like a lot of you, was just trying to get my head around the news in Wales about this circuit break or fire. I'm not quite sure what the official term is, but yeah, just sort of quite surprised that they are talking about, or they have talked about non-essential retail closing in Wales. So it just kind of gives an interesting indication of maybe where we're sort of heading here in the UK, sort of in England. But yeah, quite interesting, slightly different to what perhaps we were all expecting over the next sort of few weeks. But anyway, I think that sort of quite a nice segue into what I wanted to come on here today and talk about. This week is about sort of the power of the pop-up shop. I think it was just really good to chat last week about the future of retail and specifically VM and kind of how visual merchandising has a huge part to play in the future of VM and the future of retail really, and that whole sort of storytelling piece that visual merchandising allows brands to do to communicate to customers about product or product stories or brand stories or heritage or history or any of those sort of things. And without, I think, visual merchandising and ultimately the wider sort of brand marketing, then the customer really doesn't buy into that, the product and the experience. So yeah, I think I wanted to come on here, whether anyone's got any questions, comments or anything that they wanted to share while we're sort of here for the next sort of 25 minutes to talk about the power of the pop-up, and I'm really sort of interested to know what your thoughts are on that, and where the pop-up shop has maybe not a pop-up shop, or pop-up activation has a huge sort of future in what happens here and globally for retail in the future and for brands to communicate. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Yesterday, I opened the newspapers to read that specifically 11,120 chain store outlets shut here in the UK between January and June. I think obviously if you read into that number, it's quite scary. But there was 5,000 opened, so a decline of sort of 6,000. So there's quite a big decline, obviously, in the number of stores that are out there. But I think, everyone talks about retail reset. There's always a sort of reset moment. And obviously, we've had the rise of e-com and all of those things. So I think, obviously, brands have opened a huge number of stores. And whether now with the rise of, the sort of online shopping and all of that stores have a huge part to play in sort of delivering a very different brand experience, and I think with the pop-up specifically, how does that sort of change what these stores are all about? So, huge number of store closures, but what that allows is there's a lot of space out there for brands to go and do stuff. So there's a lot of space for brands to take temporary trading space, temporary opportunities to try new things, and maybe to take sort of shorter term opportunities. So I think, the days of the store with a long lease and taking long 5-year spaces is probably gone. I think a lot of people, unless you're really sure about your position and your market, then I think the space in a sort of centre or a high street is going to be focused on a lot more short term, probably around a moment. I always use the word moment, but if it's around a specific time of year, or if it's around a specific product launch, or what will PlayStation do for the launch of the PlayStation 5, I think that's the one. So what could PlayStation do, for example, by taking a store? What could I don't know, the likes of Supreme, they obviously drop product in their stores, but what could they do? What could artists do? What could an online only retailer do if they just wanted to test the market, if they wanted to move somewhere and try something in Manchester for a few weeks? Obviously not at the moment, given everything, but how can they take their product to a specific place in a very sort of temporary moment? So, I think I just put there what Liam's written about pop-ups are great for brand visibility and to try new things. I think that's a great point. It's about the metric for success. And there's a really sort of interesting point that I've had and we've had as a company here, and I listen to a lot, is what is that ultimately that is what has got to drive out any brand activation that you do, is to determine what the metric is, because it might not be sales. I think that the sort of challenge with retailers these days, and maybe less so for brands, but especially if you're a traditional retailer, your bricks and mortar stores are there to drive out X number of sales. So it's all about making sure that your sales are sort of split across the entire company, or even if it's not about sales, what is the pop-ups to do? Is it about to engage in a new product? Is it about a new to try some new tech? Is it about to try something on or feel something or just engage with the brand? And I think Apple's a great example of that. And I know everyone talks about Apple, but I think obviously their model for retail is incredible. I don't know how many people go into Apple and buy the product in Apple. I think you go in there to sort of touch it, play with it, feel it, whatever, to sort of immerse yourself in the brand. And whether you go home and you buy it on apple.com, whether you buy it from John Lewis because they give you a great guarantee or warranty with it, or service, whether you buy it somewhere else, you're still buying into Apple. And obviously the sale may have come from the store, from that store experience. The sale has come from it, but obviously the sale is not a poor sort of given to the store. So it's a sort of new way of changing, especially a retailer where, you've got a store. I've worked in stores and there's a store target and the stores have to drive out X number of sales to sort of to cover their costs, which is understandable. But if in the new sort of way, and I think that's obviously where pop-ups can do that, especially if you drive out a metric. Is it about increasing your Instagram fans? Is it about social media and creating a buzz? Is it about having a massive queue outside the store and making a real impact? Is it about it's all about what driving out what that is. Another really important one, I think interesting one there, is that whole sort of new digital experience. Because what is, why do you need to go to a store? Why do you need to go to a new sort of space? Why would you need to go out when you can just shop online? And that's the sort of I think there's been some really interesting pop-ups, mainly, again, I think when I talked about it last week, but mainly in Asia. There's been some great ones. I saw I posted the other week that Christian Dior have just done one in Beijing, and incredible in sort of how it looks, and you'd want to go to see it. You'd really want to go and sort of experience that pop-up. I know Montblanc have done one. Giorgio Armani did one with a massive gorilla outside, and you'd want to go and have your photo taken, I think, outside of that, or sort of be part of that experience. And that's the difference between, you can't do that at home, and you wouldn't want to do you can't get that experience in a sort of traditional shop. And I think that's what I sort of talk about, and we talk about a lot in the pop-up, is that the power of the pop-up is all about sort of thinking outside what I'd call the traditional retail box. So does a pop-up have to be a shop? Does it have to be a box shop? Does it have to be can it not? A pop-up can be anything. You know, I have here where I live a lady who pops up in a van in our car park, in various car parks across the county here, called Refills on the Road, and she pops up, and it's a van that sells sustainable products. So you fill up your tubs and your laundry bottles and your bubble baths and all those sort of things from her van, and she pops up once a week, and that's a great example of a local pop-up activation that, you know, you go and visit, and it's exciting, and it's not there every day, and you have to be there. You have to make an appointment at the moment, but it's a really fun, sort of engaging thing to do. And as we move towards the sort of the rise of the local high street, I think where people want more localized experiences, there's so much opportunity to pop up your brand where it's needed. So whether you want to sort of move into a sort of new market or into a new space, then the high street allows you to do that now. The sort of rise of the new high street, whether it's a restaurant or I know all these things are sort of difficult in sort of current COVID times, but it's about thinking completely outside of what a traditional retail shop could be. So you could be one thing one minute and another thing the next. And yeah, again, another great example, I have a thing called Bustler's Market, which pops up at a weekend, and it's a food market that it's a unit that's there. It's built to be a sort of sustainable unit that has a bar and tables, but what happens is the food pops up. So they have different food trucks that turn up every weekend, and different brands try out different things. And one weekend it's chicken, the next weekend it's donuts, and it's gives you a reason to go back. So I've been there a number of times on the weekend with friends and with family and the children and stuff. So you go and you experience something different every time you go back, and they have different menu and different food and different DJs and different music and all those sort of things. But yeah, it's the difference is that it's exciting to go back, and every time you find something new out, and yeah, you share it on social, or you share it with your friends, or you share. So that's, for me, that's the future of a retail store, is that there needs to be a reason to go back and visit again, and to share an experience. You know, you don't want to go to different towns and visit the same shop. So, you know, brands did that 10 years ago. I was part of some great brands that did that built an amazing visual of a brand and delivered it globally to massive success. And every store had the same look and feel. Every store had the same fixtures and lighting and furniture and mannequins, and you had a strong, consistent brand message. We merchandised the stores exactly the same, because you wanted this sort of brand consistency and a really strong global visual presence. But that's changed now. I think you get that. Like, I don't think you'd want to go to one shopping centre and then 2 weeks later go to the next shopping centre and find the same brand doing the same thing. It's the cookie cutter approach is not. It's not interesting. It's not visually stimulating. It's not engaging. And I think it's about those experiences that I've seen. The new Adidas store that opened in Covent Garden last week, and it's got the same feel as an Adidas store. You can see bits in there that's the Adidas store, but it's different to the Adidas. You know, it's different to that incredible Adidas store on Oxford Street. It's different to other Adidas stores, and there's a reason to visit. You know, it's got a living plant wall in it, and a giant shoe that's been 3D printed and put in there. So it's about all of those bits that make it an experience to go to that space. And again, Adidas, great example. Like I don't know how many people would go in there and buy trainers, whether you try them on, whether you try product on there, but you know, obviously there's huge opportunities to buy Adidas products 360 days of the week, year, 360 days of the week, 24 hours a day. So it's not necessarily that the shop has to create that purchasing opportunity, and it's about that personal connection with a brand, and doing those things that, again, I spoke about them before, but you can't try on the trainers, you can't feel them online, you can't touch them, you can't, all of those things. So it's, that's the huge opportunity for retail. And yeah, I think that's where pop-ups have a massive benefit, is that there's there's small risk involved, there's great exposure. And I think Liam's just put a really good point here. That sort of that connection with the local community piece, that you can take the product to the people. It sounds a bit sort of cheesy to say it, but you don't have to take the same product to the same towns, to the same cities, to the same locations. You can really sort of cherry pick what you're doing in, I don't know, York compared to Plymouth to wherever, really. That you take and you tailor the offer to those locations, and really focus on that locality. And there's been the rise of the farmers market and the rise of that sort of real organic lifestyle where people would really want sort of everything home, that British feel. So yeah, there's no reason why small independent British brands or European brands can take a small space. And really, I think that bit that you could go to a store, I sort of go, we've all started to go, I don't know, to the butchers and to the bakers and the candlestick makers and all those sort of things, but that interaction with the staff that really know their product. So what better way to buy into a new brand, whether it's someone who makes candles or fragrance or cakes, whatever it is, but to actually be able to walk into that shop and talk to the person who is so passionate about the product, is, that's the bit you can't get. I know you can do, like, watch Instagram stories, and you can watch people like me on LinkedIn Live, and you can watch YouTube videos and all those sort of things, but I always remember I went on a visit to a cobbler's, I don't know, it's obviously, that's not the right word, a shoe factory, again, probably not the right word, in Northampton, incredible English shoe company, and I was amazed at how the level of detail that went into making these shoes, and the love and care and attention, and the cups of teas and chats that went in while these shoes were making it, and even down to the guy. And the bit that stayed with me was the guy at the end who buffed and stuffed and built the box and put them in with so much care and attention that he loved every pair of shoes that went out of that factory. And you understand the value in those shoes compared to something that just gets, I don't know, put in a plastic bag and delivered by the DPD driver. And I think that's the bit about, the experience of a store, and especially a pop-up, is that you can do that. You can see things happening live. I think Andy makes a great point here, saying if there's always something new going on in your local town. I think there's a result. I'm lucky. I live in quite a sort of there's a sort of mix between tourists and locals, but the sort of rise of the local town, there's nothing worse than a local town, and nothing against charity shops, but there's nothing worse than a town full of estate agents and charity shops, because it's not engaging, it's not, it doesn't fuel your excitement to visit. And I think yeah, if there's things, that you can go to, like the food market, like the farmers market, but if that then moves into sort of experiential retail, and it doesn't have to be absolutely mental in terms of its application, it doesn't have to be high tech, but it's about delivering something that's fresh and new, um, you know not every day of the week, but to make sure that when you go back, that it's that bit that the surprise and delight, and gives you a reason to leave, to not shop online, to go and get it. And whether, even if it's you've bought it, you've shopped online, and then you want to go and pick it up because you get beautiful packaging, that when you go and click and collect it, it's been lovingly put into a beautiful box, and you can talk to the person there, or you buy it, you do it the other way, that you go to the store, you experience the product, you touch everything, you smell it, you whatever you need to do, and then it's delivered to your home as an incredible part of the experience, because it's about that sort of moving everything around and trying new ways. So I think what I wanted to sort of talk about today was really to think about the pop-up being, I sort of talk about it, but think outside what I'd call the box in terms of delivering retail and retail theatre. It's, it goes back to the days of the traditional window display, was about stopping people in their tracks and saying, that's really interesting, what's that product, or is that new product, or is what's happening, I want to go into the store and find out. And obviously, as footfall and people going past stores, and that sort of general footfall is falling, it's about creating such a buzz socially, that you'd want to go out to the store to visit, that you'd want to get in your car and choose to go to Trafford Centre over Arndale Centre, that you'd want to go to Bluewater or over somewhere else. There's so much competition as well, that you need to create a reason to go. And there's as much for landlords, while we talk about it, but I think there's as much for landlords to be involved in that as the tenants, the brands, and the retailers. It's about creating opportunity for everyone to kind of come together to create these moments. So I think it's for me, it's about taking the pop-up in a new way, and again, like I said, it doesn't have to be a pop-up in four walls, for example. You could I was looking at how you could pop up in a park when we weren't allowed to go shopping. If you can't take people to the brand, and maybe I should suggest that in Wales at the minute, but if people can't go shopping and can't with your brand, and then you need to take the brand to the people. And obviously it's been done for years with branded this and branded that, but how do you take the pop-up or the brand to where the people are? And I reference it a lot, but the giant Nike trainer pictures that I love is great. They drop, it's not even a thing, but it was someone's idea was to get a giant Nike Air Max and drop it into the street in Manchester. Amazing, like, to do those. And I know there's obviously Nike have done the shoe box, and Adidas have done their shoe boxes that you go in, and things like that cause cause disruption to whatever's going on, is really interesting. And I think that's the power of the pop-up, and the fact that it might not be there tomorrow. Like, we know shops are there, unless unfortunately they're not because of financial reasons, but shops are there 7 days a week, like 10 hours a day. So you don't necessarily have to pack everyone in the car or get to go there, because if I don't go there today, it'll be open tomorrow and I can do this, or I can I can get it online and I'll get it delivered in 2 days or next day. So yeah, I've queued in the same queues. You've queued at Supreme to go in, and because that's the only time you can get it. If you can't get it there and then at that time, that's it. So that's the sort of thinking outside that retail box thing, that as everything changes, sort of as retail evolves, it's for brands and businesses, specifically what I'd call traditional retailers, to kind of re-evaluate their structure internally, to make sure that, and I've been part of these conversations, but always the challenge is you've got a marketing team, a visual team, an e-com team, and probably a number of other teams all trying to do a similar job, is to obviously engage the consumer and make them spend money, and be part of your brand, but to kind of bring all those things together to make sure that actually all those functions work in the same format to deliver a brand experience across whatever the activation is, whether it's you're taking over again, I'm not sure it's the great example at the moment, but you take over a pub for a pop-up, or you take over a barber shop, or it doesn't have to always be about product. It could be anything. So that's for me, the power of the pop-up. So yeah, kind of another 30 minutes of me rambling. I find that I end up rambling on here for 30 minutes. So hopefully it's an interesting ramble for people. It's an opportunity for me to come on and sort of talk about things that I'm seeing, and obviously a lot of things that loads of people are talking about as well. So it's hopefully it doesn't come across just as me being some retail. And I didn't do my chair either. So I said I was gonna do my chair before this, but it's still a squeaky chair. But it's just a case for us to come on, once a week, and to talk about things that seem to be going on in the retail world at the moment, and maybe give us some positivity thoughts on where that's going. And I know a lot of people, regardless of whether you're a supplier, retailer, creative, an installer, a printer, any of those, I think we're all going through the same sort of thinking and environment at the moment. So it's just a great opportunity to come on and just have a chat about how we can, bring retail back in. I'm a big fan of retail, and I'll end up being like one of those adverts. Otherwise, if I'm not, I'll have to retrain like the rest of them. If like everyone's been talking about in those horrific government adverts, that if I don't do retail, I don't know what I'll do. So it's a case of I think there's so much opportunity in retail. We're having some amazing conversations at the moment for next year, and I think it's just a case to sort of come on and for us to talk about that there's an amazing future ahead for it. It's just making sure that we sort of understand and it's about understanding where the future of retail goes, and for us to debate it here. So yeah, as always, feel free to drop me any messages, comments, anything like that. And then if I can convince someone to come on, if anyone wants to come on and join me 1 week, then please do feel free to send me a message about that, because it'd be great to just have a chat with someone else rather than just look at myself on the screen. And then also, if there's any topics that anyone would like to cover off in the coming weeks. So I'll be back again if everyone thinks it's worthwhile next week, same time. But until then, thanks for being here, and I'll ping some more stuff out on LinkedIn this week, and let's see where we are this time next week. All right, thanks everyone. Speak to you later. Bye.